Welcome everybody. You're here for the launch of the all-age exploitation reduction screening tool. Just so you're all aware, session is being recorded today, and that's so that we can share it with colleagues who couldn't make it today. We will be doing some further briefing sessions as and when people need it as well. So you've seen the link to the quiz. We'll be going through the results of that in a couple of slides time. So while you've still got a chance, please keep going with the quiz. Couple of housekeeping for you. Obviously, you'll all see that you're on mute and your cameras are off as well. If you do have questions, which I really hope you do, please stick them in the chat and Denise will keep an eye on that for us. And we'll have a part at the end where we can go through any questions that you may have. It is going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour in terms of looking at the tool today. I will expect that you'll have some questions when you start using it as well. So we'll obviously open to having contact with us and having conversations around that as and when you need. But today is just to make you all aware of the new tool, what it looks like, and that it's going to be being used from today. So my name's Rachael Eaves. I'm the Operations Manager for Vulnerable Young People, and that covers youth justice, exploitation and missing teams.
And my name is David Mullane. I am the Safeguarding Lead for Adult Social Care and Dolls.
Lovely. So Denise, have you got some of the results of the quiz? Well, David, have you got all the answers to these ones?
Ooh. I haven't. Sorry. 1 minute.
Oh, we need to just go back again, Denise.
Yeah.
Back again.
Back again.
It's sliding through
yeah,
all
it's
the
going
way.
through.
There we go. Apologies, everybody. So what is the most prevalent type of exploitation in Solihull? And this is data that we've collated through our own data source. So this is real data and over the last quarter of what's happening in Solihull. So you've been given the answers, and most of you have said criminal, and you would be correct. Criminal is the largest form. Have you got the percentage, David?
I think it's 65% was the average for criminal, which is, really quite amazing, really, isn't it? Should we do the next question? So what age group was most likely to be targeted by exploiter? I think we've got a lot of people who actually know their onions on this one, because 14 to 17 is the most likely age group that young people face exploitation. The stats are around 56% for those 14 to 17 years old. Question 3. What percentage of adults who experience exploitation are known to mental health services? 34% of you were correct. It's 48% of people in that particular period, but it is a significant number of people experience mental health issues, probably as a result of exploitation and other parts of their life. So in terms of what percentage of people experience are care experienced, it was 17% actually was the figure. So it seems quite a low figure. But it's still very prevalent within exploitation. Finally, how many people who experience exploitation have an EHCP. It was 57%. So yeah, 46% of you were correct. So yeah, we've got some stars to hand out, I think, on this one, Rachel.
Yeah, well done, everyone. We thought it was just really useful to kind of ground us and show us what is happening in Solihull. These are the people that we're working with, and this is what the tool is all about. It's about us recognizing and raising that awareness. So we just wanted to start off with just setting the scene really and going back to the basics in terms of our definition for exploitation. I'm not going to read through this, you can see it on the screen, but we have got our own Solihull definition. So Solihull recognises exploitation as deliberate maltreatment and manipulation, irrespective of age, gender, ethnicity, background, or ability and sexuality, and comes in many forms. Including that modern slavery, human trafficking, sexual exploitation, and criminal exploitation. So just reminding ourselves what it is that we're looking for when we're talking about exploitation.
Okay, so Solihull's all-age exploitation reduction strategy was created back in 2020 as a response to the tragic case of Rachael. Rachael was just 20 years old, but her life had been marked by neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and exploitation. And she sadly took her own life as a result of that. The learning that we took from her life was that we recognised that we were inconsistent within safeguarding between adults and children's safeguarding, particularly in this vulnerable age group transition between children and adults. The transition is often a critical time where young people can face significant changes socially, emotionally, and practically, but services often fall away. So the procedures were really brought in to bridge that gap. Rachael's case underscores that exploitation doesn't simply stop at 18, and that's why early identification of risks and consistent safeguarding approaches is essential. The strategy is a reflective to work collaboratively. I can't get my teeth in today. Across all of our agencies to bring together that collaborative approach so that we're working with police, education, adults and children's social services, youth justice. And we recognise that exploitation can affect anyone regardless of their age, gender or background. The effects extend beyond victims and impact families and communities. In Solihull, we've addressed it with the all-age strategy, and these are inclusive policies that identify risks and vulnerabilities that people face throughout their lives. We go on to the next one. So just wanted to highlight the 17 types of modern slavery that are identified in the UK. This typology highlights the complexity of exploitation and reminds us that some forms, while harder to detect, are no less harmful. These offences range from victims being exploited in isolated environments or coerced into labour and criminal activities to deeply distressing cases like child sexual exploitation, forced begging, or human trafficking for sham marriages. It happens in any context. It can be family members, partners, or strangers. The risks are wide-ranging and far-reaching. The list also includes connections to organised crimes such as forced labour in cannabis farms, financial fraud. The diversity underscores that no single solution will address every form of exploitation. But it's meant to be more than just a list. It's a practical tool to help us take action. Tackling modern slavery needs careful attention, teamwork, and a joined up approach to make sure that the victims get the support they need. Okay, next slide, please.
So this is one of the resources that we had developed. We've got a whole range of resources, and on the last slide, there's a link to those. There's booklets, there's posters, training materials that we can give out and put in our public areas, but also in our offices as well. So we all know that recognising the early signs helps reduce those risks. And some of those signs and behaviours on here have come from research from missing people. So this is what families identified that they saw was happening for their loved ones. So that's the approach that we've taken to looking at exploitation in Solihull, is by those behaviour changes rather than categorising and specific indicators, which we've moved away from now. So it all helps to recognise and respond to those signs. And by doing that, that's how we reduce the risk. So the more we know, the more aware we are, we know what we need to do. And ultimately, for professionals, this is where we use the screening tool to look at reducing those risks, or assessing the risk, using it as a risk assessment tool to look at what it is that we need to address. Next slide, please, Denise. So this is another of the resources that we made available, which again is available on the last slide, and the link is to it. And these are the signs to look out for. Again, we've gone away from specific indicators, but are looking at behaviours, changes. You know the people who you're working with, their families know them really well. Families are our protective factors in most of the cases in exploitation. So we need to be listening to when things are changing and take note. And it might be that you've got an accumulative effect of some of these things. And this is where we need to take action. So this is the grooming line: the targeted, befriended, hooked in and trapped. And this is how people get to that entrenched level and they can't get out of it. It's easy, happens really quickly. We know it happens really quickly. And we need to be making sure that we're identifying this early, using the screening tool, and then reducing the risks and getting people out of that situation. Next slide, please, Denise. So this is a video that we've had developed. It's been around for quite a bit. We're going to show it you now. Denise, it's not playing.
Hang on, we got the wheel of death.
Oh. No, it's not working, Denise. We know what technology is like. It never works on the day, does it?
Always. Hang on.
Having good friends is one of the things that make life really great. But friendships can be tricky. And even a really good friend can make us feel bad sometimes. So it's good to talk about our friends with our carers, and our family. It's wise to talk about the kinds of things that you do together. It's nice to share good memories, and it can be really helpful to get some advice. If you don't think your friends are making you happy right now. These are some of the things that you should talk about with your carer before it reaches boiling point. If a friend plays a trick on you, or tries to make you angry, and then says that it's all a joke, If they call you names, you don't like, face to face, or online. If someone asks you to share pictures or videos with them over the internet, or if a friend wants to use your cash card. Something else that's good to talk about is if your friend asks to borrow something and doesn't bring it back, or if they bring people to your house that you don't without your permission. It's good to have some rules about what a friend isn't allowed to do. For example, they should never refuse to leave if you ask them to, or ask you to look after something, or even deliver it without telling you the truth about what it is. They shouldn't take money without asking, or make you pay for things like food, or alcohol. They should never make you feel scared, out of control, or like you can't say no when they want you to do something. A good friend should never ask secrets about the way they behave. Talking about faithful friends, carers, or family is a nice way to relive some of your favourite memories, and to make sure that you're still being good friends. An important thing to remember is that a good friend is someone that makes you feel safe, someone that makes you laugh, and is interested in the same kinds of things that you are. So to finish, just remember that it's great to have friends. If they do or say anything that makes you feel bad, you should talk about what's going on with someone you trust, like a family member, neighbour, key worker, or anyone else who provides you with support. If you can't find someone you can trust, in Solihull, you can always call 0121 704 8021 and speak to someone who can help.
Thanks, Denise. Sorry, it seems like that played twice. So you should have got the message twice there as well. I hope you got the gist of it, but the link will be on the slide so you can watch it yourselves, and it's one that we can share with the people that we're working with too, and just gives a bit of a flavour in terms of what it is we're looking out for, or what families might want to look out for as well.
It's also available on the SSCP website as well, isn't it?
Yep, it is. Yeah, on the joint website there. We'll send you all the links so you have got everything. You'll also have noticed that there is a separate phone line. That phone line was set up a couple of years ago to avoid people feeling that they were ringing social services or children's services, adult services. So it's a separate phone line that is on our posters and on all of our resources that does come into the local authority, but not to specifically children's services. So it is a bit of a way to get people ringing in without feeling it's through that method. Over to you, David.
Okay, so just a few sort of tips about how we would want you to fill the screening tool in. We feel it's key that the screening tool should be filled in with the person where at all possible, because it opens up those conversations that you can have, and it helps you to understand their perspective and what they want from any kind of involvement from any services. But it's not necessary to do it if you really don't think you can have that conversation. One of the things that we often get asked in kind of adult social care, particularly when people reach the age of 18, is, do we need consent before we fill in that form? And we don't. What we want you to do is see this as a risk assessment tool at its core, really. So where you perhaps haven't got consent, but you are still really concerned, we would still like you to fill in the screening tool and send it in. What we would then do is we would contact that person, and a lot of what we try and do is continuing engagement and not take no for an answer. So we will go back and work with people and try to overcome the kind of the psychological barriers or the bonds that people have put around them, so that people are too scared to ask for help. And certainly in adult social care, we will work with people for extended periods of time, up to months, to keep going back and re-engage with that person, to see if we can, we can support them. Okay. Is there anything else we wanted to add to that, Rach?
I'd just say we know that perseverance is really important. That perseverance, that's what we learned from Rachael, and it's what we've learned from the work that we've been doing over the last 4 years. Persevering and building trusted relationships are the key tools to children and adults feeling and becoming safe. And it isn't a quick fix. We know it can take a long time, but it does work. Is the message in there. Next slide, please, Denise. So this is the bit that you've all come for. This is the screening tool. Now, it's always difficult kind of showing new tools, because until you use it, it's really difficult to say, to ask you questions and things. But what we wanted to do was just show you what it looks like. It's going to look quite long, but actually you fill in what you need to. So when you come into it, it's an online form now. So it will be a form that you go straight into. And this is the page that you will land on when you click into the link. So you'll have to put in your name, your information, and then you have to put in a password, because what it will do, it will send you an email so that you can go back into that form and have a look at it again. So Denise is scrolling down for us. So here, reference number, it might be the child's name, it might be a system number, something that's relevant to you. It's only for you. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you know what the information is. Just to say as well, there is guidance that goes alongside with this tool. If we scroll to the top of the page, there are guidance notes, or a link to the guidance on every page that you click on within this screening tool. So wherever you might get a bit stuck and think, what is it that they want in this? You can go to the guidance and have a look through, and it's a step-by-step guide through each of those sections, just giving you some ideas. You'll see through the tool that we've not got a lot of tick box questions, and that's because we want you to be using your analysis, your observations, your professional curiosity. So it's a lot more about your risk assessment, your assessment of the situation, what you're seeing, and that's what we really want to start seeing. So what you do is you just save and go on to the next slide. And if we go to the top of the screen, you'll see that's gone to your beginning again, Denise, I think. There you go, save it. Few teething issues. We thought this was going to work.
Technology is not our friend today, is it?
It's not, is it? So yeah, so once we go in, yeah, so at the top of the screen, you'll see, so it's on blue at the moment for children, young person, adult, and that's the screen that we're on. And you can see, sorry, go back to the top again, Denise, that there's sections for each one. So we've got information about guardian, their education, health, your concerns, peers, tech, missing, perpetrator, views and analysis, and then you submit. So they're each of the sections that you'll be going through during this tool, and that practice guidance alongside it takes you through each of those sections as well. So at each end of those sections, you'll have the red stars. So they're obviously your required information, and it won't let you go through unless you put that information in. Save and next. So the information then about the person that they're living with, their carer, all of that information would go in there, their information. And then we click add. So those important people, we put in the professionals as well. We'd add them in at that section too. So you put in the name, then you click on the add to button, and it will come up then as the person. I recognise that not everybody's going to have all the information, and we know that. We know, but some people do. We know some practitioners will have a lot more information than others, and it might be that you're working with a number of professionals to gather this information and putting it into one form. So yeah, it's information about school. We want to know about their attendance, any exclusions, suspensions, any SEND needs, speech and language communication needs. That's all really important because we know from our data the correlations around this. Our health needs, any information about health, and that can all go in there too. Any substance misuse. And then we come to the concerns. So this is where you're ticking the type of exploitation or harm outside the home that you're feeling. Now, it's much wider than just the exploitation. You can see on here we've got serious youth violence, antisocial behaviour, or home invasion, peer-on-peer abuse. So we are looking much wider than just exploitation. It is harm outside the home as well that we want to look at. And then it's about your risks. So we've separated the concerns out into current and historical. What we found and suspected, what we found with the current tool was that the information was going into the boxes, and we had to figure out whether it was a current concern, whether it was something you were just a bit worried about, or whether you had factual evidence about whether it was currently happening. So these boxes really help you to decipher what is it that is the current concern? And we're saying within the last 3 months. And again, you can go back to the guidance to look at the kind of things we might be asking for within those boxes. We've tried not to put all of the information within this because it keeps it here. I just saw something about a blank copy. You can print it off at the end, but I'll come back to that in a bit. So the impact of vulnerabilities as well. That's what you want to look at. Actually, what is the impact of substance misuse or those injuries on that person? And again, it's all age, so we're using the language of child, young person, and adult along with this as well. Protective factors. We want to know what those strengths are and those protective factors as well, because that helps us to look at what the gaps might be and if there's anything else we can put in to make sure that they're not spending all the time doing other things and keeps them safer too. So peers, again, this is where the form is written in a contextual safeguarding way. So we're going through each of the areas that you would within contextual safeguarding. Obviously, peers is one of those key ones. We want to know those positive peer associations, those concerns around the peer associations, what those relationships are. We've got tabs to add any mapping that you might have. Again, I appreciate not everybody will have all that information, but we can use that once it comes into children's services or adult services to upload that mapping, so it's all in one document and one place, and really helps us to get a good picture about what it is the risks are. Technology, this is the one that's coming up quite a bit. What social media platforms are being used? What kind of internet data use is being used? What is that technology? Again, that really helps us to narrow things down and look at what the actual risks and concerns are. And again, split into that current, historical and suspected, and you'll find that in all of them. And it does make the tool look long, and you might not have those suspected or historicals, but again, it just helps us to narrow things down and really focus on, okay, so this was a historical concern, but these are the current ones, and helps you to look at the themes and patterns, and if anything's different. So missing and location, we know that missing is a big indicator of exploitation and missing episodes. Those missing episodes will be logged by Children's Services. You might have additional information or concerns around particular locations. We can click and say whether it's a concern in Solihull, outside of Solihull, and then we can specifically look at those locations. And that really helps us with our mapping around where is the exploitation happening, where are people going, where are they being exploited, how are they being exploited, and then helps us to look at our services and resources to reduce exploitation in those areas. Looking at taxi networks, transport, and all of those things too. So perpetrator, well, again, information that you might not have any particular information, and where you've got the red star and you don't have it, you can just put none. So if you haven't got that information, don't be worried that you have to write it. You just write in NA, or you don't know, because you don't have to know all the information at this point. And the most important bit is that views and analysis. So on this page, this is where we're asking the child, young person or adult about their worries, concerns, strengths and protective factors. What is it that they want to happen next? Same for the parent and carer. So we're not asking a particular question. This is for you to have the conversation with that person about. Again, if you don't have consent, you still complete the form, and we can have a look at this afterwards, and you can gain their views as you build that relationship. Safeguarding overrides that consent in those circumstances, but you're using it as your tool. You can use it to go and talk to your own managers and say, this is the information I've pulled together, this is my analysis, this is my balance of what I've looked at of those protective factors and the concerns, and this is what I feel needs to happen next. And that's really important, because that gives you some ownership about what it is that you want to happen next. That tool comes into our hub and we make the decision about whether it comes into MACE. You might have a real strong view about what actions need to happen. So it's really important that we have this section so that you're able to set what that is. And your analysis is really important in that. And then that last section is the submit button. So once you submit, that comes into our CSE email address. So if we've got the next slide, Denise. Yeah, so what happens is the moment we are going to be changing the system. We've still got a little bit of work to do in the back room, as so to speak, in terms of what happens to the form. But at the moment, what will happen when you press that submit button is that the tool will go to our CSE team. So it's our exploitation and missing team. What you will need to do is make a separate referral into either children's or adult services as well. When you're sending a screening tool, it's because you've got a concern. So at the moment, you do need to send separate referral into either MASH or adult duty, and attach a copy of the tool. So the tool, once you've completed it, you can download as a PDF document, save it, and you will need to attach it. What we're working towards is having a referral system so that it will go either into children's or adults. The guidance does tell you how to do this. And we will let you know as soon as the much quicker option is there. But we did want to launch it and make sure that you all had access to the tool. So from today, we will be using this tool rather than the old tool. If there are any queries, please contact the CSE team on that email address, or contact me or David, and we can talk you through how it needs to be done. I know sometimes that can be barriers to getting things in, but it's just really important at the moment that you know that when you press submit, that's not a referral, it's just a tool coming into our service. So the referral will need to come in with it. Just a little reminder about what our teams do. So in Children's Services, our exploitation and missing team, we're working with children up to age of 25. We're providing those consultations to professionals and carry out direct work with children and their parents and carers as well. As I said earlier, that building trusted relationships is really important and will support children to move into adult services. So where a child is turning 18, we won't just stop at 18, we'll continue working past that in order to make sure that there is no gap in service provision for them. And it may be that one of our direct workers has that best relationship and is the best person to keep working with them to support them into adult services or alternative support. Providing group intervention with schools. We come into schools. We're starting to work with primary as well. We're coming out and doing some briefings there because we know that we have to start early with identification. It's too late once children are 16 and 17 and in trench. We need to be getting that early work and preventative work done, which is really important, what we're trying to focus on. And the last bit, those children who've been missing, we've got the missing team within our exploitation team, work really closely across both services because we know that correlation between missing children and exploitation too. Next slide. David, that's you. David, you're on mute if you're talking.
My sincere apologies. It was on mute and then I couldn't get it off. Yeah, so we have a new combined transitions and exploitation team. We have a new team manager that I understand is on this actual training today, moving forwards. And we're working closely together with Children's Services now to make sure that we are attending more MACE meetings before the age of 18, so that we are building those relationships and making sure that when we take over from Children's Services, that we have good relationships and understand the young people and where they're coming from. Okay, that's it.
So we're going to take the opportunity in this training to also launch our new Language Matters document. So you should all be aware that we've had a Language Matters document for some time now. But what we've done is we've refreshed this and it's now in 3 sections and is a lot easier to read. Denise is going to bring it up for us here. So we click on to Language Matters. Obviously, we can send you the link to where this is again. But we set out about why language matters. We've made it more trauma informed. The language that we're using is trauma informed. We're thinking about trauma and using that appropriate language. Some examples of what to use, what not to use, what we're trying to avoid using, and gives you some examples of what we could start using instead. All part of our trauma informed approach to working with children. So it's in 3 sections. We've got the behaviour, language and the trauma-informed part. So you could read it as 3 separate bits or all one document as well. There you go, we've got our trauma-informed practice, just giving you a bit of information and guidance around how to do that. Obviously, we know children, adults who are being exploited are experiencing trauma or have experienced traumas previously, and we want to make sure that we're not impacting on that, and that we're using our skills to ensure that we're working with them in a trauma-informed way. So some of that language that we might be changing when you're talking about children and adults, obviously we're starting to change the way that we're writing to children on our case files as well, knowing that they're going to be reading this, and our adults too. Really important that we're not victim blaming these children, and that we're looking through a safeguarding lens when we're writing and talking about them. This is challenged within our meetings and in our frameworks, and an expectation that all professionals would challenge any language that's victim blaming our children and adults. So we've got another video to show you about our home takeover, which is otherwise known as cuckooing, or if we don't use that language.
Whatever
Let's see
you
if it
call it,
works.
It's abuse. It's often hard to see. Abusers choose their victims carefully, give them anything or threaten violence, grooming them into a relationship. And before you know it, their homes and finances are taken over and used by criminals for things like sexual exploitation, supplying or using drugs, hiding stuff, or just as a place to stay. Using someone else's home like this keeps criminals off the streets and out of sight. Often, they're using more than one address to avoid detection. Victims think they've got new friends or a new partner, or an existing relationship might have become abusive, so they keep quiet because they're scared of the consequences. Anyone can be a victim. Even abusers could be controlled. Victims come from any background, but they're often lonely, isolated, and may have experienced trauma. People with complex needs, people who may use drugs or alcohol, have mental or physical health conditions, learning disability or difficulties, care leavers, single parents, or people with financial problems are often the ones to be targeted. And sadly, they find it impossible to seek help. So we should all watch out for the signs. Different people coming and going, new things or money they can't explain, or debt with no explanation of where the money's gone. Their house might be a mess, maybe their self-care's deteriorated, or there's signs they're being hurt. Perhaps their behaviour's changed, they're involved in crime, antisocial behaviour, or they're carrying weapons. And they've started avoiding people who can help them. But you can make a difference. Together, we're working to identify and support people who are trapped. If you notice anything strange, report it. Each concern builds a bigger picture, and yours might make the difference. We'll work in partnership, and you'll never be left to deal with anything alone. We'll listen to your concerns and approach the situation safely. Victims might not talk at first. They don't always trust people in authority. They might be ashamed, have no idea how they got into this situation, or even that they're a victim of abuse. They could be in danger or worried about getting a criminal record. We tread carefully, slowly gaining trust, doing everything we can to ensure the person's safety. So stay alert, be curious, and if you're concerned, take action and report it.
So another quick video just to emphasise the importance of all that information that we're all holding, and how we're really key to reducing the risks for the people in Solihull, the people that we're working with. So it's everybody's responsibility to say something if you see something, and that's our logo. That's the branding that we've developed. It can only happen if we all work together. And we've put all the resources on this page so that you can go away and have a look. So it's on the Safeguarding Children's Partnership website, it's on the Safeguarding Adults Board website, and these links will take you straight to those documents and the resources as well. I know you can't talk, but I'm happy now to talk through any questions that we might have. I know there's been a lot of information here, so I don't expect everybody to kind of take it all in. I'm sure you need to go away, have a look through the tool yourself, and come back with some questions. But Denise, have you spotted anything in the chat?
So most of the questions you've asked as we've gone through, because somebody was asking about whether they needed to make a safeguarding referral at the same time, which you've answered. Yeah, at the moment they do that. Somebody asked if they could have a copy of the tool in paper so that they could complete it with somebody, but I responded to that because we know that people feel quite judged when people are actually completing forms with them, particularly around exploitation. So more to use the guidance that we've got to inform your discussions, and then to use the tool as a risk assessment to inform your professional judgment of what to do with it, rather than actually sit and complete the tool with the person, because that can feel a bit judgmental for people. So those were some of the questions. Somebody has said that they work across Coventry, Warwickshire and Solihull. So I've just confirmed that this one is only for Solihull, and it is coming into Solihull for an all-age approach. That's all we've got at the moment. So we are seeking feedback from what people got from today's session. If people would like to go to menti.com, the code is in the chat and on the slide, just to let people know, just to let us know what you think about today's session, what you've taken away from it. Really, that would be really helpful. Bev has got, we know that schools have not been forthcoming previous screening tools. How are we supporting schools to use this tool?
So we're going to be coming out and doing some briefings. We're going to be coming to the DSL days, and we've got to send briefings, one for primary, one for secondary, that we're doing as well. Happy to come and talk to any specific schools around supporting the use of the tool. So please let me know, Bev, if there's anything else we can do or any ideas you might have to support you in enabling schools to complete this tool.
Thank you. Any more questions to go in the chat? Anybody? And that's a great thank you response from Bev there. Quite often those who have been targeted are moved around. Will they be followed up?
Is this in terms of moving to different local authorities, or because we know see children where there's county lines travel up and down the country? If somebody moves to a different local authority, then we'd put a safeguarding referral into the local authority that they've moved to. That would be how that would work, unless it's a care experienced child in care. Then obviously that would remain with Solihull, and they would continue to support through that process.
Yeah, unfortunately, with adults, it's about where the abuse occurs as well. So we do have some issues with boundaries, but we're trying to break them down. Not everybody is as up to date with exploitation as we are in Solihull. So we do try and work across boundaries where we can to support individuals who have been Solihull residents.
Rebecca has kindly popped her email into the chat for West Midlands Police, who we've got a specific child sexual exploitation investigation team for Solihull. Rebecca's part of that team, so she's kindly popped her email address in the chat if anybody has any questions and wants to speak to Rebecca. So thank you for doing that, Rebecca.
Thanks, Becky. We know you're part of the team, aren't you?
Are you able to confirm whether you are aware within adult exploitation what teams within our force attend the MACE meetings? I have never been able to identify who should be doing this.
Yeah, that's really clear. It's the early help team. So Sean would usually attend that. Tim Bruton's team are responsible for coming into that.
Yeah. Thank you from Sophie. Any other questions for anybody?
Lovely. Well, I'm happy to stay on for 5 minutes in case there are is anybody that wants to stay on to
just
to ask
let you
a
know,
question.
there's some of the responses of what people are taking away from today. We will share the PowerPoints and the links for the tool, obviously, and everything else with anybody whose email address we've got. So if you booked with the SSCP or you've accessed on your own email address today, we'll be able to share that information. So thank you all.
Thank you. Just to say, the briefing sessions that we'll be holding are in person. There's one of those once a month. So you should get information about those, and we can give you more information about the screening tools if you come to those sessions too.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.